I describe my relationship with writing fairly decent. I can write well, as I've been told by past teachers and peer reviewers. However, I was never the best writer in the class. I began my schooling in Pakistan, where we were taught how to read and write in not only English, but also in Urdu. Being that we were in an Urdu speaking country, I mostly found myself conversating in Urdu, so my English wasn't in its best shape. I realized that quickly after moving back to New York at the age of 7. The little English that I did know was quite different from the one I heard from my classmates and teachers. This was because the schools in Pakistan used British English, meaning they spelled words like color and honor with a U, other words were pronounced differently, and the bathroom was known as a washroom to me at the time. Having these little differences along with my grammar and pronunciation constantly corrected by teachers and peers was embarrassingly annoying. With all the reading and writing we did at school, it was only a matter of time before I fixed my English, and soon no one was able to tell that it was technically my second language. Ironically, I then began to forget Urdu. Though I can still speak and understand Urdu, I can no longer read it or write it due to the lack of practice. As someone who was technically learning English, or one of its forms at least, I based my writing skills from readings and rubrics that were provided with assignments. For a long time, the only way I looked at writing was through school assignments, which in a way poisoned writing for me because I was never writing about something I truly felt for. Instead, they were always required minimum lengths and follow specific formats, which resulted in the entire class producing the identical pieces. Once in the fourth grade, our teacher got us journals and allowed us to write whatever we wanted in there. So every Friday afternoon, the entire class would fill their journals with what happened to them that day, their plans for the weekends, goals, doodles, etc. While I would barely get 4 sentences because I wanted a proper topic to write about and I wanted to have it in a paragraph form which had a nice flow to it. I thought that I just wasn't creative and that's why I couldn't fill up my journal like the rest of the kids. It wasn't until later that I realized how alien free writing was to me. I never understood what teachers meant by that when they asked you to write whatever you want. Of course, they were going to look at the work and grade it, so I wasn't really at liberty to write whatever I wanted. It always resulted me into really thinking hard and focusing on my thoughts, trying to come up with anything possible to write about and coming up blank. What changed this for me was when I was in my high school memoir and fiction writing class and I was having trouble writing memoirs because I had never written about myself or about my life experiences before. So my teacher told me to think of it as I'm just talking to a friend and telling them a story that happened, or pretend like I am texting somebody. This was the first time I thought about texting as a real form of writing, and I really took it into consideration as I wrote my memoirs, and week after week I put more and more effort into them, and I saw it becoming easier to write about different things that had happened in my life. And through this process, through experimenting and trying different things, I realized that becoming a good writer is doable, and there are not as many rules as we are taught in elementary and middle school. A good writer is not defined by a rubric. We only have to meet a criteria for our work for a fraction of time. In my experience, I have learned that practice and experimenting with different genres is what helps your writing. A good writer is someone who is confident in their work. With enough practice, anyone can get to that point. Another trait of a good writer is somebody who can take criticism. Having somebody judge your work sometimes feels like you are allowing them to judge you as a writer and as a person, but a good writer is somebody who can take feedback and use it to improve themselves.